Recently, I made a visit to New Zealand. It's a beautiful country, but there are two minor problems you face. One is that you have to make an effort to locate the local New Zealanders among the crowds of Indian tourists that roam around you. The other problem is that you have to scout, explore, Google, ask your friends, and somehow make all efforts to locate Indian restaurants because you are not permitted to carry Indian snacks to New Zealand, and a Shuddha Shakahari like me survives mostly on snacks. Indians are there in large numbers as they are everywhere else. And when you are standing in a queue waiting to get a ticket, you should not be surprised if somebody brings his mouth near your ear and says, Punjab se ho. You turn around and say, how did you come to know? And he says, the way you were speaking, challo, challo, jaldi challo. And then he says, मैं तभी जान गया था कि अपने देश का ही है. And tells, मैं बठिंडा से हूँ. Then you look at the man and you find that he's a short-statured Bihari. So you say, आप लगते तो बिहार से हैं. Original Bihar, now Punjab. So you ask naturally, how did a Bihari become a Punjabi? And he tells you, earlier I used to take Angrezi. Now I take Desi, like my friend Ganda Singh. So that is his way of converting from Bihari to Punjabi. Then he points out to the woman standing behind him and introduces her as my wife. You raise your hands in Namaste, and the lady with her forehead completely covered in vermilion says, Jai Sri Ram. It sounds so good in that distant land to hear Jai Sri Ram. Prior to 2014, if somebody said Jai Shri Ram in your vicinity, you might feel scared that you will be dubbed as a Hindu Atanki. But no longer so. Now it is the Garv Se Kaho situation. One reason why New Zealand gives the impression of being almost empty is that the population of New Zealand is just 55 lakhs. What does that mean? That means maybe about 1/3 the population of Chennai city. And most of these people also mostly stay at home, unlike us. They don't just roam around, go out whenever there's some work and then come back. So either they are in their houses or they are in their yachts. One positive fallout of this low population is that when you go out for sightseeing, you don't have to peep in the gaps among the crowds. You're able to stand right in front of the waterfall or the lake or whatever it might be. And you don't have to shoo away people while you are taking a photograph or videograph, as Nawazuddin Siddiqui had to do in Bajrangi Bhaijaan. Here, in fact, you may be able to take a full movie totally undisturbed. In India too, now there is a decline in the growth rate of population. Let me give you my somewhat weird theory for the earlier growth in population and now the decline. My weird theory is that millions of years ago, when the institution of marriage arose and when the institution of family arose, there was a wise man who wrote a book called Freedom at Midnight. Not the Freedom at Midnight written by Dominique Lepere and Collins. This was the original Freedom at Midnight. And this prescribed that the husband and wife would have freedom only at night when the others were asleep or were pretending to be asleep. What was the result? The result was that the husband and wife got only a small window of opportunity. And what happens when you have a small window of opportunity? You tend to be aggressive. You want to make the maximum use of it. So the result was that the men became aggressive and women became productive, and there was a population explosion. Now the situation has changed. Now it is not freedom at night, freedom at midnight that is, but it is freedom 24/7. So what happens when there is plenty, you say, हो जाएगा जल्दी क्या है. So it is this, हो जाएगा जल्दी क्या है, कर लेंगे, that type of syndrome which is now resulting in the present decline of population. The mothers are very upset with this हो जाएगा अभी जल्दी क्या है type of syndrome. The mothers tell their children, their sons, बेटे कुछ हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है? And the son gets jittered and says, माँ हो जाएगा ना, आप ही तो कहा करती हो सब कुछ समय के साथ होता है, समय बहुत बलवान है. And the worried mother gets further jittered and says, अरे बेटे 42 के हो गए हो. And this makes the son even more jittered. And he says, माँ आजकल 82 में भी हो जाता है, साइंस बहुत तरक्की कर गई है. Traditional mothers are still stuck in that old concept of marriage, couple, children. Children's marriage, couple, grandchildren. Grandchildren's marriage, couple, great-grandchildren, and so on and so on and so on. But things have changed. Now the new generation have new options, but these options have arisen only during the past 2 decades or so, maybe 3 decades. So naturally, traditional mothers are not aware. So the young man of today has multiple options. Divorce. Divorce followed by another marriage. Divorce followed by living with the same woman, that is former wife. Multi-scale relations with multiple friends. Child without marriage, marriage without child. Samalangic. You can keep counting. So there are multiple options because of which the entire scene is now changing. And these changes account for the decline in population growth. Traditional mothers still live in their own world. Even in the matter of profession, they tell their children, somebody will tell her son, beta, डॉक्टर बन जा, वकील बन जा, प्रोफेसर मत बनना, तेरे बाप ने प्रोफेसर बन के हम सब की जिंदगी बर्बाद कर दी. They do not know that the latest thing in is a startup. Traditional women do not know about the startups. So one day, Nitesh had to explain to his mother. He said, माँ, मैं और तेरी बहू इसलिए बच्चा पैदा नहीं कर पा रहे हैं क्योंकि हम स्टार्टअप पैदा कर रहे हैं. So the mother could not understand, and then he had to explain कि देखो स्टार्टअप भी जो है वो भी एक तरह का बच्चा होता है, वो टेक्नोलॉजी का बच्चा होता है. तो स्टार्टअप जो है इट ग्रोज इनटू ए कंपनी, जस्ट एज ए ह्यूमन चाइल्ड ग्रोज इनटू ए ह्यूमन बीइंग, a startup grows into a company. So her mother made some connection. Okay, they are producing startups, which are children, new type of children. So she asked, बेटे कितने startup बना लिए अभी तक? He said 250. उसकी माँ तो बड़ा धक्का लग गया, आंखें चौड़ी हो गई कि 250 children. Then she said, बेटे दिखाओ तो सही किस तरह का बच्चा है तुम्हारा. And he opened his laptop and showed the cyberbot. And the mother screamed. And she said, अरे बेटे इस तरह के बच्चे तो जापान में जब एटम बम गिरा था उसके बाद बनने शुरू हुए थे. And she swooned and has been in that state of unconsciousness ever since. Changes in the world and the generation gap, as we call, the generation communication gap, understanding gap, expectation gap, whatever you'd like to call it. As I said, the second problem in New Zealand that you face is, especially the Shuddha Shakaharis like me, that they have to look for an Indian restaurant, and most of the Indian restaurants are located only in Auckland. So you have to keep searching, Googling. Finally, you are able to reach a good restaurant. And once you reach a restaurant, you find that it's exactly like our restaurant. Straight as you go, there will be a big picture of Balaji or Guru Nanak Dev Ji or some other picture will be there. Usually some Devi Devata, Bhagwan Ji and all that. So another feature will be that it will be very noisy. Everybody talks to everybody else, as it happens in our restaurants here, with the result that the bearer has to bring his ear very close to the mouth of the person to get the order. Then, of course, there are Punjabi songs. Chale chaliye mutiyare ni mele nu, something like that. And there is only one small difference. The difference is, two differences actually. One difference is that in India, you usually have to wait for a long time, 1 hour wait, 15-20 minutes wait, etc. Because our Grihanis here, they believe in Shramadhan. So they believe that they should donate their effort to the chef, to the Zomato person. So this is a very good tradition in our country called Shramadhan. Supposing a Grihini is watching Netflix and there is a sudden twist. So what will she do? Immediately she'll take her phone, tuck, 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 tuck. हाँ भैया 5 नान और एक सूखी सब्जी, एक गीली सब्जी, 1 घंटे के बाद भेज देना. So that is how, in fact, if you look at it, the politicians in our country take credit for reducing joblessness, but actually the credit should go to the Grihinis. Because of them, the chef gets employment, the Zomato man gets employment. When the Zomato man goes and fills petrol, the petrol man gets employment. So if you look at the economy of the country, it's very complex. People talk very casually without understanding as if they are great economists. But economy of the country consists of small bits. And a lot of the contribution in this is of the Grihinis. So this is what happens in India. But there in New Zealand, in other foreign countries also, you find enough vacant seats. Here, of course, you go, there is a young, beautiful girl standing there. You tell your name, phone number, and she says, I'll call you. And then for about an hour or so, you have to wait and then take food. So this is one difference between the restaurants there and the restaurants here. Another difference is that there, when you're taking food here, you say mirchi, mirchi, mirchi. There you say price, price, price. This is one big difference. Otherwise, the preparations are the same, serving style is the same, everything is the same. So this is one thing you have to take care of, because they don't allow you to take any snacks. In fact, you can be penalized very heavily if you try to stealthily take the snacks. And a Shuddha Shakahari like me basically lives on snacks when he goes abroad. The worst torture is about tea. See, we people cannot live without tea for more than 2 hours. Now imagine you travel for 200 kilometers driving the vehicle, and then you go to see a waterfall maybe, or lake or something, and there will be a restaurant where when you buy chai, it is worse than hot water with something mixed in it. So at that time, the hudak of kadak tea is very zalim. It reminds you of the chayos in VR Mall. So chai becomes a very big problem there. In our country, tea is available everywhere, in every corner of the country. Even if you go to a jungle, you will find some small khokha of tea. And if you ask that man, कि साहब यहाँ कौन चाय पीना आता होगा, he'll tell नहीं सर, यहाँ इस जंगल में जो लोग लकड़ी चोरी करने जाते हैं वो सारे यहीं पे आके चाय पीते हैं. तो I don't know whether you know this, formally or informally. I don't know whether there has been any official declaration, but they say that chai is the national drink of our country. Perhaps it is because of this only that people look upon Modi ji as their national symbol and give him so much respect and elect him repeatedly. Even the opposition parties also recognize the symbolic value of chai for the Prime Minister of the country. So that is why recently Shri Khadge said in a rally, मोदी जी साबित कीजिए कि आप चाय बेचा करते थे. So he did not question the credentials of the Prime Minister and his suitability as a Prime Minister, or his legitimacy, or whatever you'd like to call qualification, his qualification for becoming the Prime Minister in terms of his academic qualification. So he also said, साबित कीजिए कि आप चाय बेचा करते थे. So much for my visit to New Zealand. We'll again talk about such issues. क्योंकि life is for talking, analysis, and understanding. All the best to all of you.